Here we are once again with another review of Battlebots. The latest season has been great so far, and we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get straight into the review of episode 3. Thanks again for all the support. Let's get started. To start off, a nice, simple Chris and Kenny intro, saying hello to international viewers and then a little robot joke. Not much to say, but this was fun and just got right into the action. We're at episode 3. There's no need for much fluff at this point. We just want to see the battles, and I appreciate that they're just getting right to the meat of it, and the fight card looked great when I first saw it. Definitely some matches where I felt like I already knew the results heading in. This feels like a more one-sided affair, a lot of the matches, but still, even then, the one-sided matches looked like ones which I was incredibly excited to see. We'll get to those when we get to them, however. And in the first match, we have Hypershock versus Slammo, and this was a match where both robots really had to prove themselves. Slammo, the latest robot by Team Danby, it did fairly well in its last competition, but those were against lower-end robots, the original Pain Train, which had some ground clearance issues, and War Easy. And this was one of its biggest fights to date. However, Hypershock had to prove itself as well, given that it's always had a bit of a spotty run. Sometimes it would do amazingly, and other times, not so much. So there really was a lot to prove here, but I knew this was going to be very difficult for Craig here. Slammo, as good as it is, was going to have to really dig deep, and I saw that they were trying something here by having a Krusty Grab / Big Dill setup here, where instead of having their gramming arms, they have something preset, I imagine, to try and bulk up on the armor perhaps, but sadly there just wasn't any chance for them to really make use of it. Hypershock came right in and it was on point in this match. It came in, landed some huge hits. Slammo never got a look in. It just never had a chance, and before we knew it, it was dead. To be fair to Slammo, it didn't seem to be reliability issues. It was just a case of being hit several times by a big spinner. I kind of expect that sometimes with like a middle tier robot. It's gonna die when hit by a big spinner like Hypershock, and man, after watching this, I felt like Hypershock might be onto something here. It's definitely not the big redemption for them just yet, as they'll definitely need to fight some higher tier robots before I truly feel like Hypershock is back, but still, a very dominant performance. I'm gonna give this one about 3 stars. There wasn't anything too crazy in this that would make me go, wow, I need to see this one again. But it had a lot of what I really needed, It was a quick, short, dominant performance. Hypershock really got to show itself off. Shame there was nothing from Slammo in this, but still, not a bad fight and not a bad way to start the episode. And now on to the next match, and my word, talk about breaking your fist with my face. P1 versus Valkyrie. Now, I knew that this was really going to come down to the strength of P1's wedge and the power of Valkyrie's weapon. If P1's wedge was a little bit weak or Valkyrie's weapon was just a little bit more powerful, Valkyrie would have it, and vice versa. Point is, though, this match was one that was going to be decided right out of the gate, and P1 was immediately dominant, running into Valkyrie consistently, giving them no room to breathe, and eventually Valkyrie actually burnt out. Now, one thing that's crazy to me is that back in the day, I swear when robots would catch on fire, it was either the robot was already out, or we were counting down to when they would be counted out, because they never really lasted that long while on fire. But this season, we're seeing consistent displays of robots on fire, making it either close to the full 3 minutes or the full 3 minutes. That being said, though, it's the reason that I've got to give this fight 2 stars. And I feel bad for giving it that rating because at the beginning, that match was brilliant. P1 was so dominant. Valkyrie, while catching on fire, did manage to take out a wheel off P1, but in a way that also meant that the match kind of fell off towards the end. Valkyrie with no weapon meant that it was kind of just floundering around trying to think of anything to do, because horizontal spinners aren't known for their pushing power. and P1 couldn't take advantage because one of its wheels were gone, so it couldn't drive straight. It's a shame really, because like I said, the beginning was spectacular. It was a 4-star start with a 1-star finish, so that's why I'm giving it 2 stars. It wasn't a bad fight by any means, but definitely wasn't as exciting near the end. But I've got to say, big kudos to P1. I'm really happy that they did well in this one. And then on to the next fight of the night. It's Riptide versus Huge. Now, before the fight started, they did show a hype video talking about Riptide. And it's nice to see the clarification that it definitely was inspired by Yeti. I got those vibes anyway, but it's always good to see a shout out to a veteran Battlebot. And yeah, Riptide looks nasty. You know, the lifters look decent. I don't know how good they're going to be. We haven't seen them in action yet. But the spinner, whoo, that looks good. Now, to be honest with you, I was very worried. Like Riptide said, Huge is pretty much their counter. Surely, like, the robot is high up. It's going to be very difficult to hit anything besides their weapon, and that's always risky, especially seeing as Huge is apparently much more powerful and reliable this season. The match started, and one hit was all it took. Riptide sent Huge up into the air and into the screws where, oh man, I feel like I'm getting deja vu to the Huge versus Mammoth match. Huge's wheel got stuck in the screws, and even when Riptide backed away, Huge was unable to actually get out. Now, honestly, I'd love to rank this match high because it was short, it was sweet. I don't think I can give it that crazy high score, so I'm gonna give it 3 stars. You know what? No, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Sure, that's probably something I imagine people are gonna disagree with me on, and feel free to let me know what you think of these matches in the comments. But I don't know, something about that match was just fun to watch. That Huge shot, it was a 1 in a million shot that Huge would land that way in the screws and get stuck. Like, everything just lined up perfectly for Riptide. I am sad for Huge, of course. I love Huge. But I've got to give a huge kudos to Riptide there. An amazing victory for them. And man, really shows just how powerful that weapon is. I can't wait to see it fight another robot. So hey, it's got me excited. I had fun. So yeah, 3.5 stars. Also, if you want to see more of Huge, check out Battlebots. The latest season should be out by now. If it isn't, check out the NJGW channel. It's gonna be great. There's gonna be Huge and Rampage on it. Then we have Fusion versus Cobalt. Honestly, I thought that this was Cobalt's fight to win. Cobalt was a vicious spinner in its last run, absolutely decimating even the likes of Duck. If Duck has trouble enduring you, you know you've got a powerful weapon on your hands. Couple that with the fact that Fusion is known to have reliability issues, I thought that this match was a guaranteed win for Cobalt. Now, unfortunately, I neglected to remember one key weakness of Cobalt's, that being the ground clearance. As good as Cobalt is, its ground clearance is such a key flaw with it. When it hits hard, but it's got to get under its opponents to do that, and unfortunately it could not get underneath Fusion with its 6 wedgelets. Fusion kept getting consistently under, tearing apart Cobalt. Cobalt never got a look in, and was eventually beached on top of its weapon. That's a massive shame, as I'd have loved to see a good Cobalt hit, but that probably would have turned the tides against Fusion here. So I'm betting Reese Hewitt is glad that that didn't happen. I've got to give this match 3 stars. Honestly, this match was fun. You know, you got to see some great hits from Fusion, and it's just a shame Cobalt didn't get to really show itself in this match as well. But overall, I had a great time watching. Man, you have to feel bad for Icewave, right? Its first match in this season, and it's up against Black Dragon? Like, I do not know why Icewave got such a difficult opponent in its first fight. Don't get me wrong, they were on about how Icewave has worked on the weapon motor so that it's even more refined, you know, it's going to be able to dish out that power with a little less weight. But like, we all knew how this one was going to go. Icewave is hardly the lowest to the ground robot ever, and Black Dragon is a vicious vertical spinner. So yeah, this fight went about how you'd expect it to go. You know, Black Dragon rushed in, huge hit, Icewave never really got a look in, its weapon died pretty quickly, and yeah, it was left dead in the corner. I'm going to give this one about 2 stars. You know, this fight, there wasn't anything that crazy, it wasn't that notable a match, but it was perfectly fine. Black Dragon got to showcase itself and really show that it's capable of doing some nasty damage to an opponent. I just feel bad for Icewave, man. Like, that really was just such a one-sided match. I think it's time to accept that Icewave needs to fight some lower tier opponents. It can't keep fighting these robots like Black Dragon. It's clearly not equipped to do that anymore. As much as I love the robot, I'm not gonna pretend like it's able to fight these types of robots. Like, it's just kind of sad watching it fight the likes of Fight Force and Black Dragon and all these high tier robots. Now we move on to Witch Doctor versus Duck, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think Duck had much of a chance in this fight. Witch Doctor is always an incredibly powerful machine. They'll have undoubtedly fixed a lot of those reliability issues, and Duck doesn't seem anywhere near as low as it would need to be to deal with Witch Doctor. And then Duck comes out and it's got these huge forks. My god, the size of them! Like, remember, Endgame's wedgelets, you know, when they were that long, they were like paper thin. They were breaking off just from Endgame turning. But like, on Duck, those were mighty, my word. But of course, it is not about size, it's about performance, and in the fight, Witch Doctor spent no time at all just ripping one of them clean off. Unfortunately for Witch Doctor, its weapon then soon burns out, and I'm gonna give this fight about 3 stars. I'd love to give it more, but honestly, once they burnt out, while they were able to push each other around, they weren't able to take big advantage of that like I would really want them to. And that really was a problem for Duck because, well, Duck taking such big damage really needed to pull something out of their hats in order to win it here. And unfortunately, they just couldn't. So yeah, I'm going to give it, like I said, 3 stars. This fight could have definitely been more, but, you know, these things can happen. And yeah, still, it was a pretty decent match. We got an amazing hype video after that of Copperhead versus Lockjaw. Honestly, this was so much fun. It was great to hear from Donald Hudson about, you know, just how he does in the Battlebots, and really the improvements to Copperhead as well. These are 2 incredibly impressive robots in my opinion. Like I said, Copperhead is one of the great drum spinners. It's so powerful, it's much more durable apparently this time around, and Lockjaw, really, if you are a fan of Battlebots, you know why Donald Hudson and Lockjaw are so revered. It didn't need some crazy story, this was just 2 amazing robots locking horns. And man, this hype video got me so excited. I was so eager to see this main event. And there was also a video about this guy, David Fay, and how he was building this Trojan horse sculpture that he was going to auction off for charity. And the cool thing about it was they were going to be utilizing broken parts from the robot. So if you saw a piece fly off a robot, chances are that's going to end up on the sculpture. Now, it was to be continued, so there's not a lot to say here, but hey, it's got me intrigued. I'd like to see how it looks, because it's got to be hard to make something look good when all you've got are mangled robot parts. So hey, David Fay's got his work cut out for him here, but I'm interested to see what it looks like. Now, of course, before the main event, we've got to talk about the bonus fight. And guys, do you want a hot take? This is a contender for match of the night. I'm not joking, I adored this. Okay, so this was a fight that I was really intrigued to see. You know, part of my friend was a robot I was excited to see. It's a big, powerful looking drum, and we never really got to see what Claw Viper was capable of in the past. My god, is Claw Viper something else? You know, we know that it's a tanky build, but it's so incredibly fast. It suplexed, pardon my French, just so easily. Like, there was no strain, like, just immediately suplexing it. It threw, pardon my French, all over the box. Sure, pardon my French was out, but my explanation for giving this, oh god, do I do it? I'm gonna do it 4 stars. The reason I'm giving it 4 stars is the tantrum reason, in that it was just throwing the opponent all around the box. Claw Viper carried this match all by itself. And honestly, I think it did better than Tantrum, because it managed to get, pardon my French, locked into the screws. The match didn't last that long. Honestly, it was so much fun. And Claw Viper is so fast that the only damage it seemed to take was self-inflicted. Honestly, that match really was great. Some of the other matches in the, this episode have been good, but, with an asterisk, some criticisms. This fight was just brilliant. Honestly, I can't believe the bonus fight is where I'm showing my love. But hey, I'm not going to complain. That was a great surprise. It's time for the main event. Copperhead versus Lockjaw. Now, I gotta say, Copperhead, nice detail on the drum right there. That nice little, the decal of Lockjaw getting tied up by a big snake. That was good. I like that. Man, this fight was an excellent main event. Absolutely spectacular. Now, the two robots kept dishing out massive hits to each other. I was a little confused at first when Lockjaw came out rear first, but it might be a better anti-vertical setup than Beta's anti-vertical setup. Honestly, it doesn't even compare, really. But when they went weapon to weapon, it was huge. And while Copperhead was definitely getting the upper hand, I gotta say, Lockjaw got in some nasty hits in as well. The fight kept on going, the damage on Lockjaw kept on building, but Lockjaw never gave up. Even when the weapon eventually burnt out, they were still doing what they could to push Copperhead around. I've got to give this one 4 stars, because it was just a great match from beginning to end. The weapons were brilliant. Even when, Lockjaw's weapon was gone, it still tried its best. These were 2 great robots. So yeah, 4 stars easily. What an amazing main event. And there we have it. That was another episode of Battlebots. Now, we gotta talk about the bot of the night. And honestly, this one was tough because, well, I almost gave it to Claw Viper. Claw Viper had an absolutely stellar performance and was such a shocker. But thinking about it, I've got to give it to Copperhead just because Copperhead got such an amazing performance on a high-tier opponent. I want to give massive kudos to Claw Viper, however, because I did not expect it to do nearly as well as it did, and it was brilliant. But Copperhead showing why it's one of the greatest drums in the heavyweight scene that we've ever really seen. Honestly, an absolutely night and day improvement over last time. Great job to the Copperhead team. Honestly, they were spectacular. And there we have it. Honestly, this episode was pretty darn good. The lows weren't as low as episode 2, and the highs were spectacular, including that lovely surprise bonus fight. I would heartily recommend that any of you go and check this episode out. Maybe it isn't episode 1 levels, but honestly, we're getting pretty darn close in my opinion. That was brilliant stuff, and I hope you all enjoyed watching this review. If you did, be sure to hit a like on that video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell to be notified of future videos on the channel. I'm planning on getting more Battlebots reviews out in short order, and I will see you all next time. Oh yeah, share the video with your friends as well. Please, I'd like more eyes on the channel. Bye guys!